Tales of Old Ireland Retold with Lora O'Brien. The Sorcerous Sisters. Bainech, I call you, woman of battle, bringer of madness. Nevin stood forth, while her sister dipped fingers into the thick red paste and drew the whorls and swirls on skin already flushed dark with excitement, with blood rushing beneath. Eyes, lips, cheeks anointed. Forehead, nose, chin anointed. Patterns and symbols of old, as their mother wore before battle. As her mother's mother, and all through their line back through time. She felt the effects of the paste begin to seep through her skin. Limbs strengthened and muscles defined, tendons tightened, ready to spring and dance. War dancer she was called, bride of battle. Her weapons were spear and blade, but more than that, the voice of fury she bore and utilized, that place where terror truly lay. Badbh, I call you, Fia of my heart, child of my father, woman of battle, Badbh Caha. Nevin now dipped her fingers deep into the matching black paste, rubbing it with her fingertips, enjoying the viscous sensation on her flesh as she repeated the familiar patterns and symbols on her sister's skin. A chanting began, low and rhythmic with the drums from beyond. The sisters circled the fire, beginning their twisted dance together. Reaching to the pouches hung at each waist, they pulled forth herbs they knew by touch, their scent intensifying on contact with the air, and more so again as they threw them to the central cauldron sitting over flames. Handfuls of herbs added and stirred as the sisters twisted their sorcery round the circle. Poetry she brought to bear to add to the poisonous mix. Red-mouthed Badbh opened wide to pour forth the chanting wail, while Nevin plumbed the wisdom of her bloodline to find the words to wreck and rhyme the enemy, to where her voice could catch their ears. The fire heated those words, mixed with herbs, as the brides of battle undulated around the cauldron to fix their sorcerous intent. Out into the evening they danced, once the spell was set. The daughters of Elkmar wended their way over the crest of the high boundary, then down the scrub of the hillside, cauldron carried between them, carefully slipping through the landscape, bearing their poisoned load into the cool dusk of the countryside. Into the water source they tipped the laced liquid to trickle and flow down to the army encamped over the brow of the hill. Then they made their way to the cave close by, climbing into the earth to wait for full dark and the poison to do its foul work. Emerging to the beginning sounds of screams, the sisters smiled at each other, teeth glowing pale in blood red and shadowed faces. The intoxicated army below would be seeing shades and monsters at every turn. The sisters slipped again to the hill crest to view the scene spread out below. The army there were scattering about, falling in their armour and on the points of their spears and sword edges, so 100 warriors of them died in the midst of the encampment as the sisters stood. Chaos abounded, with no man knowing friend and fearing only foe, and in that time of terror the first cry carried from on high, as Badbh opened her red mouth wide, and Nemhain unleashed the power of her voice upon the men below. Such a sound had never been heard by any there, not from the first squalls of an infant onto the death throes of an elder. Such a sound had never been heard from human throat or animal gullet, not before or since. Such a sound as she made brought panic, sheer, unadulterated terror to those who heard it, those men already blinded by poison and addled by sorcery. Such a sound caused scores of men to immediately fall on their own swords, or lash out in their frenzy to kill their comrades where they stood or sat in their own fear-pissed breeches, weeping as they died. Nemhain's cry echoed the intoxication of insanity, reverberating across the landscape under the sky, while red-mouthed Badbh roared laughter and encouraged to drive it forth. That was not the first or the last time that those sisters sang their way through the wars of men, but they are all stories for another day. This was first recorded for Patreon by Lora O'Brien, Irish storyteller, writer, and heritage professional, and guide. See more at loraobrien.ie or patreon.com/Lora O'Brien. Slán go fóill.